once again, you know what time it is. You know who we are. Tuesdays at 8, time for another edition of the MCW Cast. I'm Legacy MCW announcer Larry Legend.
I'm Dan McDevitt.
And I'm Tara. Welcome to the show.
Yes. You are fully vaccinated, Tara.
I am. Are we celebrating?
Yes. Celebrating a maskless Tara in the studio.
I almost had forgotten what you looked like. So I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to be across the table from a fully vaccinated Tara here on the cast. How do you feel?
Vaccinated.
Good.
Did you get sick or anything?
No, I got a headache and then 3 days of fatigue after each shot.
Which sounds like a lot of people, right?
Yeah, and like I didn't get anything else other than that, but like I'm not a person that really likes to sleep, so 3 days of fatigue was like hard because I don't have time in my schedule for fatigue. So it was just that I can't keep my eyes open. Like they were closing even though I wanted them to stay open, and that was weird for me. But other than that, I feel great.
Well, I heard over in Europe, the people who got the AstraZeneca, they pulled that one because 9 people passed away from blood clots after they received it.
Yeah, and I saw that. It was younger ones, too.
Yeah.
Under 65,
Where's that company
they were blocking
That's
it.
not the company in Maryland. What's the company in Maryland that Governor Hogan? That's not that company, right?
No, it's not. It's not. No,
it's not an American company.
It's not an American company, I don't believe. I didn't really dig into it. I actually just saw it as I was about to leave over here for the cast. But yeah, I heard it on NPR. But yeah, I mean, it also has I think they originally came out with like a 79% effective rate, and then they dropped that to about 71%.
It's never good when that's going down.
Yeah, so this one vaccine is kind of at the bottom of the barrel so far as media coverage is concerned. But my mom just got vaccinated. Her next one, she got shot 1, and she's going to be getting shot 2 soon. She also said she was kind of just sluggish, kind of a headache, but all's well that ends well. So got our fingers crossed for everybody that's getting vaccinated right now. And as soon as I'm eligible, I'll be in there to get a vaccination as well, but not eligible just yet. So you won't see me on Facebook, flashing that I'm vaccinated because I'm not there yet. So I wish.
But we kind of talked about that last week. How you aren't really a fan of people using social media to be posing and
Well, it's kind of like when I thought about it a little bit more, it's kind of almost like a reverse shaming or kind of a posturing is the best way that I can say that it is, because again, how do you think that makes someone feel who is not eligible for the vaccine or it doesn't have the means to get it? Of course, our president currently is working very hard to make sure that by a certain date, everyone can get it. But right now, everyone can't.
Right.
So it's kind of like, hey, is this a really genuine thing that is motivating you to take a picture of yourself with your card saying I've been vaccinated? Or are you doing it for the applause? Which is that little like button or heart button underneath.
I wonder, too, if it's just such a sense of relief. Like, I know we were kind of chatting about this earlier. And like,
yeah, true.
I don't even like social media. And I posted my thing, and saying that I had gotten my first shot. I actually forgot to do it for the second one. I took a picture but forgot to post it. But, I was saying that I felt like people who have, that public persona kind of have, they have that public forum that they can use to just say, hey, guys, I did my part. It's like when you give blood. And I was thinking about this later after we were talking earlier. Like when you give blood, you post that sticker, hey, I donated, you know what I mean? And it might, I don't know, inspire someone who's on the fence or maybe, just be like, oh, okay, cool. Then maybe I should do it. Maybe I should look into this. Initially I said, no, I wasn't going to do it. But now maybe I'm willing to take a second look because everybody around me is doing it. And then, too, I think people are posting because they're just freaking happy to get back to some sense of normalcy. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, well, I'm just excited that this might let me go see my parents. So I think they just might be posting because they're joyous.
So since you said that, I just scheduled my next blood donation for April 7th. So then I will, when I get done with the Red Cross, I'll post it on Facebook.
There you go. Make sure you ask for your $5 gift card.
Do you get a $5 gift card?
Well, they don't do it every single month, but there are several months that they will do a $5 gift card. I've noticed it tends to be like every 60 days or so they'll tend to offer you that, but it's like a $5 one. So I get blood too.
I'm going to ask for that.
Yeah.
And
why not? $5 is $5.
Yeah,
I go down to Boley's Quarters, the volunteer fire hall.
Okay.
It's through Red Cross. I set it up through Red Cross, but
Right on. Yeah, you get $15 for serving on a jury, $5 for giving blood. You know, it's funny.
But you know what you also get is a free COVID antibody test when you give blood, too. So that was initially when I started giving blood. I've been anemic most of my entire life, so I was never eligible. And I pumped myself full of iron so that I could go donate blood. And there was actually a Team Bruiser Strong that somebody else had started, so we were donating, for RJ or someone else to use. And I learned that you could get a free COVID antibody test, and I was like, ooh, let's just see, because you never know if you might have gotten it and been one of those asymptomatic people. So you get it automatically.
Sounds like you, Dan.
And they give you snacks afterwards. You give water.
Oh,
and
well, I'm
snacks.
sold. Snacks, let's go. I love a good snack, and speaking of loving something good, want to send out some love to all our coffee club subscribers. Anybody that had bought us a cup of coffee. We're turning into spring now, so it's not so cold in the studio, but we still like to stay caffeinated. So
maybe buy us an iced coffee. How about that?
Hey, I like that kind of talk. Yeah, I like a nice cold brew. But we want to thank you and just remind everyone, share out the stream through YouTube and Facebook. Give us all those likes and hearts. We love to see those as we're doing the cast. So
share that feed, please, on Facebook. Share, like, and also comment. It helps the algorithm. If you're watching on Facebook, don't just share it, but actually like and maybe throw a comment in there. Helps the algorithm. It also does on YouTube if you comment. And if you're digesting your podcast through audio only, don't forget Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, and just about all major podcast platforms at this point.
And I'm glad you shouted that out, audio only, because how about the way our last episode sounded with Dak Draper, Big Dak, and Quinn McKay.
Great episode.
Yeah.
Great episode, great conversation, great sound.
They were a delight to have
and just
here.
like every episode you learn, I had no idea that they actually came up this way to work for MCW and ended up getting in the Ring of Honor dojo. So I didn't even know that. I learned that last week too. So.
You know what their story reminded me of is how Lunchbox, Dino Devine, remember he drove and he was
from California,
sleeping outside of the school, wasn't he?
Yeah. Orlando Jordan.
The both.
Orlando Jordan quit his job in Richmond, Virginia, and drove up and signed up to Bone Breakers and was living in his car. And I always I was in my early 20s then, and me and Mark, that's all we really did was wrestling.
Yeah.
And I'd come in and I'd always think to myself, man, this guy Orlando is the first guy here like every day, and I'm getting here like 2 hours before the school starts.
Right.
And it was like 3 or 4 weeks in to training that I said something, and he says, and I knew he had a job like at a Ruby Tuesdays or something not far from the school. And he was like, yeah, I'm just trying to get enough money to get an apartment or something. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then he tells me that he had just, for the last like 4 weeks, he had been sleeping in his car in the parking lot. And I was like, and then the light bulb went on. That's why you're here.
That's
so
why you're
early
the first
for
here.
training. Yeah, but I mean, he just wanted it. He was, it's the stories you hear of people that just, yeah, he wanted it. He took and he walked in and paid, the full money. So I found out then at that point, like, you gave me all the money you had. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, this guy packed all his stuff in a car, gave me all the money he had, and slept in a car, not a single complaint. Went and got a job working as like a waiter, and then got into an apartment and ended up obviously making real well for himself in the business. But yeah, that's how Orlando gave it a shot,
Yeah, I love hearing everybody's backstory, and I think Dak Draper and Quinn McKay they were great. And let's talk about the real star of the episode.
Oh my gosh,
that adorable little 7-month-old puppy.
Yeah, he was
half Thor. Yes.
I didn't realize you could see his actions on the cast. Like, of course I review our cast when after. I didn't realize when we were filming that you could see him going back and forth here between me and Dak and going to see Quinn over there. So it was quite entertaining.
You
Our
could hear
first
him,
four-legged friend.
Yeah.
Yep, you could hear him too. He was sweet. Very, very glad that Half Thor could join us.
Well, look, we're going to keep the ball rolling here. Speaking of Dak and Quinn and the sacrifice they made in Orlando to join Bone Breakers, we're going to talk to another graduate from the Bone Breakers Pro Wrestling Training Academy, or came up through the annals of Maryland. Maybe we'll get into it a little deeper.
He wasn't actually a Bone Breakers graduate, but he's become. You're talking about our guest this week,
I'm talking
right?
about our guest this week.
Our guest this week is, he's become a mainstay and one of the top guys.
Yeah, so it almost feels like he was from Bone Breakers.
He's been around a while,
Yeah, indeed. Green room all the way over here. I'm talking about the Blackjack Tripper, Drolix.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast, and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
Drolix. Tease. Yeah. Drolix. Drolix. That I was back again. The OG closer as I react to win. No matter who told you how I react, it depends.
We are back with our in-studio guest, the Blackjack Tripper, Drolix. Welcome to the MCW Cast.
Thank you kindly, sir.
Glad to have you on, Drolix.
Thanks for being here.
Hi, Tara.
Hi.
I'd love to start off just because Dan kind of corrected me before we went to break. I'm so used to seeing you around these parts. I thought that you had trained at MCW at the Bone Breakers, or our second iteration, Bone Breakers version 2. But that's not the case. Where did you train?
I wish. From the stories I heard, the place was fun.
It wouldn't exist in 2021.
Yeah. With the way that we used to carry on. But where's your origin story? Where did you first train here in Maryland?
I started at EWA.
Okay, so that's Jim Christian.
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
Jim Christian.
So he was the head trainer, huh?
No, he was not. Jim was just an owner.
Okay.
Just took your money.
All right. Yeah, one of those.
Blood was a trainer.
We know Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Blood. I mean, a lot of people probably don't know him. But for me, he showed me the basics. He took the time to show me the basics. Bumping, stuff like that. The basic stuff to get you.
I like him too. He's always been a real.
He's a good dude. He's a
real nice, real respectful guy.
Yeah, I love Blood to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, I know him mostly from that famous CZW Tournament of Death 2 Battle Royal. There was a hardcore Battle Royal during that show, and he almost lost a leg.
Who?
Yeah.
Blood.
What happened?
He took a bump in a cart full of light tubes. And
oh, my God. Are you serious? Oh, really?
Yeah. That's probably his claim to fame. Ooh. Nobody even know him.
I mean, I didn't really know him. I didn't know he was from Baltimore. That was the first thing I heard. Is once I saw that footage, someone was like, he's from Baltimore. And I'm like, what? And they were like, yeah, he's a Baltimore long-time guy. That ended his career, though, but it's one of the deepest cuts I ever saw.
You could see muscle.
Yeah.
Really?
It was bad. It was real bad.
Yeah. But, okay, so that's interesting. How'd you find your way to MCW? Was it the Green Room or North Point coming to the shows as a...
Well,
you were a fan, right? Were you a fan of MCW?
Yeah,
Before you started training, or?
Well, I remember Drolix from the crowd. I remember him.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Well, hold on. We're a family show, Drolix. So let's
Put your hand on that button. I'm telling you. Put your hand on that button.
But no, just coming from my standpoint as the announcer, and Dan, you know this.
So you had an interest.
If you let me, Dan and Tara, you know this. I'm always combing the crowd. Okay.
Let me tell you this is how it went down. So I'm sitting in the crowd at it wasn't the green room. It was the wherever the
flea market next door.
North
Yeah.
Market, yeah.
Okay.
North Point. I'm sitting there, and Larry and D. Edwards are at ringside, and then I see this. This is before I knew about Larry or whatever. Back then, I was homophobic. Like, I didn't get down with gay, none of that.
Back then.
I'm a different guy now. I'm not gay myself, but I understand the situation. Okay. And I see this. I didn't know. I'm like, oh, whatever. I didn't know Larry. I didn't know what was going on with Larry. So apparently, I guess Larry was checking me. If he was, he fucking was. Like, oh, wow.
Well, what it was, this was what it was, is that, D and I, black men, right? And out there in the MCW crowd, whether it be North Point or Michaels or wherever, weren't too many black fans. We didn't really see that many black faces out there. But I think what was going on was I was pointing Drolix out because I was like, hey, that guy's back again. He's back again. No, well, I remembered you kept coming. So that was the thing. So, if we did see black faces out there,
I got you.
They would be there. Maybe let's check it out. But then we wouldn't see him again. You kept coming, and I'm sure that when we were pointing you out, D. Edwards probably was like, "Oh, I bet I know why you notice it. I bet I know why you notice him." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I mean, he's also a fan."
The way I found out about MCW was. The internet had just started. They still had dial-up, AOL, whatever. Yeah. So I'm in front of a computer, and I love pro wrestling. So I'm like, hey, Maryland wrestling. Then I seen MCW pop up. I'm like, oh, what's this? And the first show I went to was at Michael's, you and Zachary Shane.
Wow. That was the first show. Wow. So you've been to like every place MCW except for Tapsco. But like pretty much every arena we ran.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to say I came to like 3 or 4 shows. No, it had to be like 2. And I saw a flyer for EWA on my car.
That's what they used
to do. I went there, and then you I'm not sure if you remember Beach Ball Vinny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he comes to the shows with his daughter a lot.
Yeah.
He came to pick up some freight from where I used to work at BWI. And I saw him. I was like, hey. He's like, they have a school. I was like, what? They have a school? And then I cashed in a week's vacation, and that's how I started training.
How about that? Okay.
Now, had you always wanted to be a pro wrestler? Like, how did you get onto this path?
Well, I always loved wrestling. When I started wrestling when I was 10, like 1986. I tried to go on a network and actually pinpoint when I first started watching wrestling. But what I remember was that big shot from the top of the arena with just the lights on the ring. You can only see like the first couple of rows. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in that JCP era. Like, I love Jim Crockett promotion. I was never a fan of like the cartoon wrestling. I like the workers. I like the blood and guts.
Yeah.
To me, that's pro wrestling. Pro wrestling isn't balloons, some big guy in the ring swiveling. That's not pro wrestling to me. I don't like sports entertainment. I love pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you like the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, not the Rockers.
Exactly.
I understand.
To me, the Rockers were a ripoff of the Rock and Roll Express.
They absolutely were. Right, I mean, that's what they wanted.
Demolition was the ripoff of the Legion of Doom
and
the Road Warriors.
Yeah, they were
pretty much. Yeah,
that's the era I grew up in. So that's how I got turned on to pro wrestling.
So you said you were wrestling when you were 10. You're talking about like
I watched wrestling.
Oh, watched it. Okay, I was gonna say wrestling.
Like, I couldn't afford the school. Didn't know where to look.
Yeah,
I grew up in West Baltimore in the ghetto. Like, mom on drugs, no father. Grandmother took care of 7 grandkids and anybody else that needed a place to stay. My grandmother was an angel. She was a saint. Like, that's just how I grew up. I grew up rough. And unintentionally, I brought that attitude in here with me because I was told wrestling was a backstabbing business. Like, you had to watch yourself in pro wrestling. So I'm like, oh, this is the streets. I'm bringing my street game here. Could that have been right? No. Could have been wrong? No. But I did it.
You're right. Wrestling is a backstabbing game, and I think that's really kind of how a lot of the guys, once you got kind of around us, tried to kind of like set you up to like fear me or think that I really was looking at you for that reason, like that I was trying to stab you from behind. That wasn't the case altogether. They wanted to see you get hot.
Well, there's only
Yeah.
so many spots.
Yeah, they were
And
ribbing. They were
like,
digging him.
That's
They were-
what it was. Like they knew how I felt about it, but they didn't know how old I was. And that was once people figured out really realized how old I was, because I didn't get in this till I turned 33. So I had been through life. I already had a kid. I had already, like I said, I've saw some bad. I've seen a guy get shot in front of me. Like I came up rough. So this is where me and you, I think, got off the wrong foot. So in the green room, Joe Hamilton, a couple other guys were around, and they already knew from the school. So they sent Teddy Stigma over to me and say, hey, Joe wants to talk to you about a booking. Come on, I've been training for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Why would he talk to me about a booking? And I look over and I see Larry. Shit in the game. Some shit in the game.
Did you have something to do with that?
I think Joe Hamilton wanted me to he was like, no, we just want you to stay here.
Yeah, like I don't think Larry actually knew what was going down.
Oh, so you weren't in on it either.
No. But you see, here's the thing though. Having been around our circle for Bone Breakers, I kind of had an inkling they're going to try to make him feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
So they were like, just stand right here, and we're gonna just stand here and play along with whatever.
Yeah,
and I'm
right.
like, whatever, Joe.
And them not knowing, this could have been potentially unsafe for them and Larry.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like
You're
I
a grown
said,
man.
I'm a grown man, and I grew up where guns played. I was like, I didn't mind earning my way in, but you're not going to do what you want to me. You're not going to disrespect me. Period. That's just not happening. And they didn't know. And that's where the ribbon in wrestling can go wrong. You don't do that. Like, you don't know how I lived or where I came from or how disrespectful that could have been. That could have ended real bad.
Well, Larry, me and you have talked about that kind of in the black community too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, the thing about it is that, like I said, I kind of had come up around that kind of toughen your skin and kind of like those situations where you can feel that all the eyes around the locker room are actually really looking at what's going on over here.
Yeah.
Where you're being set up. You know, so I knew what was up.
Well, I can tell on another note with Drolix. I can tell on another note, you still kind of carry that because I remember leading up to RJ's passing. When I'd call like guys like you, a half dozen guys that had been around and were close with RJ, Drolix was always the guy like I'd call and I'd like give him an update like this is what's happening, or when it got close to the end. Usually it was like Tara, and then I'd call like Ryan and Drolix and a couple guys. And Drolix, we like some of the guys I'd break down on the phone with them, but Drolix, it was always like okay. But I could tell I was like, all right, I just got to talk to Drolix and give him the information and get off the phone. Yeah. There's not going to be any.
He's not a big conversationalist.
And there's not going to be any raw emotion right here on the phone when I give him this. But I was like, okay.
I tend to show my emotion when I'm alone. Like when I heard about RJ.
Yeah.
I was on my couch. He told me. So he called me before you did and actually told me what was going down. And then I had to explain to Kendall why I'm sitting on my couch crying.
Yeah.
That was hard. That was the hard part. And I couldn't tell him because Xander and Kendall are friends and they're really close. And I didn't want to tell them that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a conversation they needed to have.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was hard for me. Really hard for me.
And Kendall was great with Xander, by the way. Like, their whole little group, their little RKW group, they really, like, stepped in and looked after him, and it was pretty awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, toughening up your skin through trial and error.
Well, and you know what? I have to say, I think it's that tough attitude that make people think you have been here a long time. Like Larry had said earlier, like, oh, you weren't from the original Bone Breakers, but you carry yourself with that same kind of attitude that those of us who have been here for 20 years do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you carry that respect and command that respect with you when you come into the door.
Yeah, because now, I don't think there's a lot of respect for pro wrestling right now. I respect it. I loved it. To this day, I love it. I love MCW. Like, that's the only place I wanted to be. Only place I ever wanted to be from the time I watched it. I didn't really care if I made it anywhere else. I mean, I know that's probably jacked up to say, but it's the truth. I love being here. I love being around it. Like, even when, like, for birthday parties. I come to every birthday party. I would come just to hang out because I love being around pro wrestling.
I love when we need baby faces.
Yeah, Tara used to kill me with that. Like, I can't be no damn baby face.
You got to go out and smile and be nice to those kids.
And I would bring Kendall from the time, like, his mother was a bitch. Like, she tried to kill everything, this whole thing for me. She hated pro wrestling. Oh, well, you have to take him with you. Okay, cool. So I would bring him in his baby thing. I would send him with somebody. He would cry the whole time.
Were you guys together then?
When I first got in, yes.
Yeah.
You
know, it's always, man, whether you're a guy or a girl in the business, no matter who you date, it always seems like a struggle with when you're having a relationship. If they don't have a problem with it in the beginning, it seems like one develops. And I think that has a lot to do with the passion that all of us get into the wrestling business with. Almost like spouses seem like they develop a competition, like they're competing, which doesn't make sense to me because it's not like a person, it's just a thing. But have you guys noticed that? Just it always seems like.
Oh man, that's why I'm not in a relationship right now. You know, it's because.
Or you date in the business.
Well, that I feel like is the way to go, honestly. And you know, we've just had Ref Becky and Nick. We've just had Quinn and Dak. So it can be done.
Yeah.
You know, so
not so much for me, but you know,
well, you
to
tried.
each his own.
You tried.
I did.
Relationship
I gave
ain't
it
for
a
me
shot.
either. I'm good. I can't.
But you talked about bringing Kendall around when he was a baby, and I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember when we would when we do the shows in Frederick, he would sit on my mom's lap.
And that's the only time he'd be quiet.
And she just loved him. She's like, he is the sweetest baby.
Yeah,
like, she just adored him. She would ask me, she called him Baby Wall Street. Baby Black Wall Street. Is Baby Black Wall Street coming to the show? Like, she just adored him. But, Larry, you and I were talking earlier about years ago when I would bring my oldest around and he'd be in the little baby carrier and I would set him down and
You people would be walking around the locker room and just look at it and be like, there's a baby here, you know? Little Connor.
And he would just be stuck to my hip, like he wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Now we pull up, he jumps off the car. I don't see him until it's time to go.
He never spoke for years. I never heard him say anything. And now I hear him on the phone all the time.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful.
It is. It's actually really awesome. You know, it's really cool because I got to be honest with you. 20 years ago when I got here, I would have never thought I'd be bringing my kid around. You know, like I felt like the attitude at the time was you got to give everything to this and nothing else. Like, you can't have a relationship. You can't, you got to find a job that'll give you every weekend off. You got to do that. So trying to fit in, like, juggling family and stuff like that, like, I wouldn't have thought it before. And now there's many of us that have kids that all hang out together and they're all,
Are you saying it was a more hostile work environment?
It was just a different work environment. It was different.
Hey, let's take a moment to also talk about we're starting a new mini series in MCW called The Road Back, and it's basically they're going to be about 15 minutes. 15 minutes or so. They'll stream on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch as well. And it's basically going to be reintroducing the talent to the fans and kind of quick discussions about what they've been doing this last year during the global Gimmick. And now that we're almost ready to return, how they've prepared. And it's hosted by Kim and Nicole. And the first one is this Thursday at 8 p.m. And the guest on it is Drolix. So
there you go.
Good timing being on the podcast. So everybody, make sure you tune in. They're only not as long as this cast. They're only about 15 minutes. So it'll be
the road back.
The road back, yeah. And each week, for the time being, it'll be a different MCW talent or talents. And just discussing discussing what they've been doing the last year and now getting ready to return, and how their career's been on hold for a year, and what they're feeling and how they're ready to get going again. So,
well, I mean, I think I'll be looking forward to taking a look at the road back.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the road to where we are today with you, sir. And let's talk about your origins. Like, I remember the first time that I saw you actually in an MCW ring, it was a member of a tag team.
Yes.
And that tag team was called, I love this name, I loved announcing it, the Harbor City Hit Squad.
Yeah.
Okay, with Kendrick, who then eventually became Kimani,
Yes.
the vampire. Tell us about how'd you guys link up? Was that at EWA that you became a partnership, or?
Yeah. So my first day in training was Kendrick's first day of training. We just rapped and we were just cool, just talked, which is weird because if you know Kendrick is a totally different, whacked out dude. He is far out there.
He's got some interesting Facebook
Yeah, he
posts.
does. Yeah,
Let's say
Kendrick.
that.
Kendrick is
Yeah.
Kendrick.
Yeah.
And I love people like, be you. Like, just be you. Because I'm going to be me. And me and Kendrick, we just connected. I don't know how it happened. It just happened. So, we were in the ring working around or whatever. Me and him, I think we did like a tag with 2 other guys. I don't even remember who it was. And we just worked. Like, it was just fun.
Right.
And then he came up with the idea, hey, let's do this. The whole Jamaican thing. I said, all right, cool. I'm not Jamaican, but I'll do it. Then about a month, 2 months later, Kendrick became Dracula.
Right.
I do remember that, yeah.
You were not down
So
with
now
the
I'm
Dracula.
stuck doing something I didn't want to do. And now he's going to do something else.
Yeah. So that was all because so it was the Harbor City Hit Squad was like Jamaican vampires.
Yes.
So what you became. Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do me now.
Right.
I mean, well, he left you kinda and didn't discuss that with you or anything. You just one day you showed up and it wasn't Jamaican flags, but fangs
We got
and
the
blood.
eyes
Yeah.
with fangs.
Blood. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I remember that crap used to make me furious. Like I
was
was
like,
almost
okay.
like going to stop using you guys over that.
Because he was spitting the blood. He was
Yeah.
doing the gang
Yeah, that
thing.
crap doesn't come out of the canvas.
Right.
Yeah.
It was
doesn't.
staining the
I got-
canvases, and I'm like, what do you?
I felt like I got a lot
Who
of
was
heat
booking
because of
then?
him.
Joe Hamilton.
Yeah, it was Joe
Yeah.
Hamilton.
It
That
was Joe, and I remember saying to Joe, like, "Come on, cut the. What are they doing?
Yeah.
like it doesn't come out of the canvases.
Right.
And like it wasn't me spitting any blood. I'm just standing there like
You don't strike me
Yeah.
as like the
Yeah, I just-
spitting blood vampire type.
I got
Yeah.
residual heat. Put it that way.
We're not, we're not, hey, WWE can do it, and they're
Yeah.
$1 million. We're a small indie.
Right.
I can't just be replacing canvases,
And we had that
of every
yellow
show.
canvas,
Yeah,
and it was
yeah, I
just-
just can't.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't
Right.
just because he wants to come out with this crap and spit it up in the air.
Yeah, I got residual
Yeah.
heat.
Yeah.
A lot of it residual heat.
So about how long did you and Kendrick last together in MCW as a deal? And like, was there
Not
any?
long. It was
Yeah, it was like not even a year. I feel
nah,
like.
it wasn't because I think he had words with somebody when we were doing Rage TV at the Gilbergs. I don't really remember how.
Okay.
And then that was
Kindred
it.
didn't. Kindred he didn't get it.
A mixed bag of nuts is what I was about to
Yeah.
call him. You know,
Yeah. He was a nice guy.
very nice guy.
Real, but he didn't get it, and it didn't. Some people it takes longer to get it in the business, and you can end up just rubbing a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah.
So he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and then it's so many headaches for me as a promoter. I got so much I'm dealing with. I got to deal with the commission, fire marshals, the doctors,
Yeah.
and building insurance and stuff like that. When I get and multiple people in our locker room are like, "Hey man, this guy," I'm finally like, "Okay, cut him,
Right.
Yeah.
get rid of him," like
Right.
because I don't need. I got 45 other headaches I got to deal with a show. I don't
Smooth
need
sailing.
10 more 10 people from the locker room coming saying this, and it's always this guy's name. All right, cut him.
Yeah.
Get rid of him.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of hearing about it.
So real quick, before we go to our first break here, our second break, so after your time with Kendrick, refresh my memory, did you just come out as singles Drolix or
Yes.
like, okay.
Yes. I was just me. I was still figuring out what I was doing. And then I believe Mark Osborne was booking. And
I remember Mark.
Okay.
Yep.
He said, hey, we want to put some guys with you, come up with a name, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Went home, thought about it. Black Wall Street.
Now, did you know who the guys he was going to put with you were?
No, I had the choice to pick the guy.
Oh, okay. All right.
He
Nice.
gave me, he said, you pick the guys, just come with something. All right, cool. So, this is when, I know you remember Marcus Streets?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he started training at Gilbert's. I said, all right, cool. Let's use him. No. Before then, it was Napalm. They decided to put Napalm with me. And then they took Napalm away. Made him the Black Hacksaw Jim Duggan. We did it. When so
I didn't have anything to do with it.
So when they got you weren't around for that. So I think it was the time of Osama bin Laden when they killed him.
Oh, okay. So
and so they went with that whole thing, and I was just like, okay. I said, well, Marcus is here. Can you use Marcus? Cool. And then Chuck Lennox.
Of course.
So Chuck, he's quiet, doesn't say anything. You can say, hey, let's do this. Okay. Chuck, I love Chuck. Chuck is a brother to me. I love Chuck to death. Chuck is blood. He's a brother. I would pump his heart with my blood. I'm sure he would do the same for me. He was at Gilbert just doing whatever he was told. I knew he wasn't going to ask for anything. I knew he wasn't going to try to ask for anything. All right, put him with us. Let's do we can do the Freebird thing. Freebird rules, 3 guys. All right, cool. So Streets got caught up in some BS because he's a Watt. That's who he is. So he was arrested for weekends. I don't get that, but either you're going to jail or you're not. How you locked up on the weekends? I don't understand that theory. So me and Chuck got to do a tag when we were the champs against Ghetto Mafia. The first time me and Chuck tagged ever, and we were just clicking. It just worked, and we got in the back in the green room, and everybody was like, "You and Chuck are the better team. You and Chuck are the better team. You and Chuck are the better team." I'm like, "All right, cool. That we can do this then." Fast forward. No, matter of fact, it was that same show. Street smacked a fan in the crowd. That was in the streets.
Yeah.
That was bad. And Jeff Jones was like, "Hey, get rid of this guy, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, we can still do it everywhere else. Then on a car ride, I hear Streets doing this. I'm like, man, I took up for you. Like, why are you talking crap? Like, I don't do this. So, goodbye, whatever. So for 2 months, me and Chuck just went around every weekend doing Black Wall Street. And then, like 2-3 months later, I think Dan came up with the idea of Napalm and Solo with us. And that's how Black Wall Street was born.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to hear more about your run as Black Wall Street and here in MCW and the people who were involved in that. And so stay with us, and we'll be right back talking to Drolix.
Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
Black Wall Street.
And we're back with our special in-studio guest, the Black Jack Tripper, Drolix. Now, Tara, before we went to the break, we were going to get further into your run with Black Wall Street, which was monumental, the time when I really noticed that you were doing things around here in MCW. But I want to take it back real quick. I've seen you travel these roads as I've traveled these roads, and for a while I was, Combat Zone Wrestling's, primary ring announcer in CZW. And I remember there was a time where I saw you and your partner at the time, Kendrick, Nui Tofiga as well, before he became what he became there, all in the yellow CZW security shirts, and like show after show there was a tournament of death, and I saw you guys out there. So take us back to your time with in the land of the Combat Zone with DJ Hyde.
Well, DJ Hyde. I know it's a family show. I hope you got your finger on the button. So basically, he came down to EWA a couple times and was like, this is when he bought it from Zandig. So he was like, hey, why don't you guys come up? We did we went up the train a couple times, did a couple of the Maven Bentley shows, whatever. So we came up and he was, hey, you mind doing security, blah, blah, blah. Sure, whatever. So, we would do security, me, Kendrick, Tofiga, a couple other guys that would just randomly pop in, pop out. And Kendrick Kendrick had a hard one for Thumbtack Jack because of the whole Germany connection. The whole flag thing.
I remember,
Yeah. Gave him the flag or whatever. Then Kendrick stopped coming, and it was just me and Tofiga. Then AJ jumped in. Remember little Brett? He would go with us a lot.
I remember him. How could I? Pfeiffer.
Have him at Nichols at 5 a.m.
Yeah,
Stuff
he was
like that. Yeah.
It's a very dangerous environment for him.
See, it was fun when we were growing up. Like I don't mind seeing people cut themselves. I'll watch you cut yourself all damn day, but do not think I'm cutting myself with anything.
So is that what it came down to? Did DJ want you to do some stuff where you got your body torn up?
We were in a car ride, and he told me, and I believe Tofiga, you guys will never make it because you don't do death matches. I said, well, guess what? I will never make it because I am not doing a death match.
Good for you.
That was a subliminal way to try to get you to come and say, okay, we'll do a death match. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another way he tried to get me. So he had a beef with Billy Graham. Billy Graham was cool, man. Was one of the most laid back, nice guys you ever want to meet. Billy Graham was cool.
Billy Graham, the manager.
Yes.
Okay.
Of
Cult Fiction. Yeah, Billy Graham. Yeah.
So apparently he was so afraid that Billy Graham was going to come do something. He said, "Hey, I don't have art at the door anymore. Could you sit at the door?" Okay. What are you paying me? Because if I'm gonna get in a fight or have to fight somebody, you're going to pay me. I'm not going to throw hands with someone for free.
Right.
For you.
Right.
There was heat from another wrestler that was going to come.
A manager that I guess DJ had said, we don't want you to show up, and he was like, I'm showing up. So he put Drolix at the door.
DJ screwed over a lot of cool guys up there that made that place before he bought it. He's basically a guy that bought a company that someone else built and carried on their back. That's what DJ High did. And ran it in the ground.
Well, I mean, that's really the reason I brought it up. I wanted to hear your insight on CZW. It's a place that I was at. Real quick, before we get off of CZW, at the very beginning of the Dub Boys, and I'm talking that eventually became the Rep. Weren't you one of the original members of the Dub Boys when it was still like kind of like a fraternity, all purple shirts, you, Maxine?
Which was my idea, too.
Which was a better idea, if you ask me.
So Drew Gulag, another guy who taught me a lot. I love Drew. I had a match with Drew, and Drew said, give me 5 things that you do. And I told him, and he said, all right, we're going out. And he just called the match and added the 5 things I told him. I love Drew to death. Drew said, hey, we want to do a gimmick. We just don't know what. Come up with something. So I sat for a couple of days, and I said, it's a school graduate. We can do a fraternity gimmick. And then I pitched it to him. He said, that's good. That's great. And then we would just sit in the crowd, cheer for the faces, boo the heels. And it got over. And then DJ screwed me around again, and I was like, I'm not coming back doing this anymore. And it was probably the last Cage of Death I went to, and it was in Voorhees. And I've never been back since.
See, that's the reason I bring that up. If there are any fans that are listening to the cast that, are also fans of CZW, I remember that because I am always paying attention to what African Americans are doing in any company that I'm a part of. And I remember the Dub Boys, who have gone on to become the Rep.
And they took it to a whole nother level.
They did. They smashed it.
Yes,
but I remember.
And continue to smash it.
Yeah, I remember you were one of the original members of what would become the Rep. When it was actually something that was worthy. I thought I was upset to see that purple shirt stuff go away. But yeah, I just wanted to add that CZW sliver in your journey because I remember it, and I always kind of wanted to find out whatever happened with you at CZW. Why'd you stop coming around? I remember you wrestled at Tangled Web, the first Tangled Web in a in a 3-way or something. So now for anyone out there who's watching, have followed this young man's career like that's the story, Morning Glory.
I don't know about a young man, but I got you.
You probably are my senior, actually.
I'll be 45 in December.
All right. Well, I'm 39, so 40 in November, So not too far off.
Same generation.
I'm not sharing ages over here, so.
Same generation. situation.
We're just not talking about
Okay,
that.
so I steered us off the
Yeah, me
Black
and Tara took a powder from that.
Well, you don't look a day over 45. I think we all are sitting pretty at this
right.
table, honest. I'm serious. I'm not just blowing smoke
Yeah.
up your rear end.
We
but
found the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
It's wrestling.
Well, seriously, it's doing what you love.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that's the reality. You
Yeah.
know, if
We
you're-
have an outlet for stress.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Think about it. Yeah.
We have an outlet.
So let's talk about Dan.
I was going to ask about the match with Vader. Because we talked about it on
One of the early episodes.
Early episodes.
Brandon Scott.
Huh?
Brandon Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was the
Scott.
Brandon
It
Scott
was, yeah.
episode. Yeah, because
he revealed.
that whole story just kind of came back to me as we were talking about it when he brought up that and then Larry, and I was like, oh, I totally forgot. And then I had a bunch of people message me like, was he really? I said, yeah, I think he just yeah, you had a knife in your boot, right?
Yes. Yes, I did.
So you really
Yeah.
were
Vader would have got stuck that night.
but he
He wasn't just gonna whip my ass. He got stuck. He just got stuck.
he didn't try to take liberties.
No.
He was old by then. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
like,
He could barely walk.
Yeah, but he was still like
And he was-
300 pounds
but he-
heavier than me.
But he was pissed off that he didn't
Right.
have a private office.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I
I
had
had-
to
and
build
I-
this room.
I
Yeah,
had no,
I
I had
didn't
no
build him.
idea about him being pissed off for the match neither. So this is how it went.
Sonny calmed him down.
So this is how it went. When it was announced that I was working Vader, my old granddaddy, Bob Starr, I love Bob Starr. he always loved to pick and agitate me, because he knew what he was like, man. And I've watched Vader. Like I've seen him break a guy's back. I've seen him beat the hell out of people.
Yeah, and I was at the Baltimore Arena as a fan in the stands the night Bob Starr got Vadered.
Yeah, and
Yeah, got
like I
beat
knew,
up.
like I was a little worried.
So he was tweaking.
Yeah, I was a little worried.
He was
yeah,
tweaking you, yeah.
for weeks. So I knew Chuck would be out there with me. So Chuck had the regular knucks, and I had the knucks with the knife in it in my boot. I told Chuck, I said, "You see me stick him, you know it got real." He said, "Okay." Good old Chuck.
I just went along.
Yeah, he will go if
Yeah.
he know when he sees it go, he will go to war with you. And I said, "You see me stick him, you know it's going down." He said, "All right, cool." And me and Vader, we did what we did, and it was cool.
Well, he
was
did.
fine
He
with
did.
it.
I mean, he did have that reputation, and he did beat up a lot of guys, job guys that were doing jobs for him in WCW
Yeah.
at the time
Yeah.
too.
He
and
broke
took
a guy's
liberties with
back,
it. Yeah.
something Thurman, whatever his name was.
Yeah, he broke
Yeah,
guys
Joe
back.
Thurman,
He
right?
broke Foley's nose hard way,
Yeah.
but Foley asked for him to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they always like to get that footage of him when he would have like the fall guys in the corner, and he would
with
just
the
be
forearm.
doing
There
the.
was- I mean, and I knew a lot of guys that worked him and said like they were just seeing stars, like he was just pummeling them.
Yeah, because that's what he
And
knew.
yeah.
The camera was. This is what they
Yeah,
want for
yeah,
that
yeah,
opening. My
yeah.
video package.
I
So
think Chad. I want to say Chad Austin. Chad Austin, who we'll have to have on here one time. I want to say he worked him once or twice in WCW. I feel like maybe he got knocked out, like in that corner.
Well, I mean-
but
I
yeah,
can
I
see
mean,
him
I heard plenty of
taking
guys that
liberties
worked
with
him that
him.
said that they would that he
can
just
see that.
he would just really punch him and just pummel
He
him.
said
and
that
just-
to me
yeah.
too. He we did a clothesline spot that I would always do with Nui Tofiga because it's just a big dude, and I'm always smaller than anybody I work. So it was just 3 clotheslines, and when we got in the back, he said you're strong for a little guy. He said you locked up with me. He was kind of. He said you seem a little nervous. I said, yeah, I've seen you. Like
Yeah.
he was like, no. He was like, oh, it was cool. And then I basically sat and talked to him the rest of the night, and he was cool, man.
Yeah.
He was, man, Vader was cool dude. I had a lot of respect for him.
it's funny because for me, honestly, that's when I felt like I always pose this question: like, what was the match where you felt like, you made it? I felt like you became like a made man with that match. I
Yeah.
remember thinking, honestly, of Ron Simmons and Vader in the Baltimore area.
Yeah.
Like now you were fighting Vader, in that area. But I never had any idea that you were packing in your boots, old school style, the real way back in the day, that you would have like a weapon in case somebody
Growing up,
tried
man,
some
like,
funny business with
Growing
it.
up, that West Baltimore growing up. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, all the heels down south used to carry gimmicks in their boots.
Yeah, I could say that was the big one for me. It was, but I really didn't start getting it and picking it up until I got in the ring with Christian York.
Yeah,
That's
I would
when
say
I-
that too. I would say
that's
that's where I
when it
started
started
noticing.
clicking for me.
Yeah. I would say that too. That's where I remembered you were doing a series of matches with him, and
Yeah.
that's where I remember.
'Cause
you seemed like you started to connect the dots.
Yeah, he grabbed me by the hand and said, "Come on, let's go," and I just went with him.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for a better teacher.
Yeah.
When I didn't started picking it up with him until I started working with him, and then when I got in there with RJ, it was like, "Oh, this is how it goes." And he would just beat my ass. And
Yeah.
I would just take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess you got up and running and RJ wasn't around,
No.
right? Yeah.
I don't mean to jump ahead, but when I saw RJ come back when we were doing promos, when we first did that first Black Wall Street promo, I nudged Chuck. I said, "What?" And sure enough, Sean Cradle, and then was like, "Hey, you're working with RJ." I said, "I told you I'd do it."
Yeah, well, he probably saw money, as we'd say, like with an opponent like you. You know,
Yeah.
they'd say, like, oh, we can
And
do
for
this
him,
in a couple
and
towns.
For him to say I was one of his favorites to work with, man, that's the ultimate to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the ultimate to me.
definitely overwhelming. All right, so Christian York is when you really started cooking. And then how soon after the Christian York program did you find yourself in the title picture?
That's when I found
That was it.
That was it?
That was
Okay.
it.
That was you
Yeah.
won the first title, your first title from
Yep.
Christian? Yeah.
Yep.
In Waldorf. Yeah, and then the Black Wall Street thing. It just came together real quick. I think we all put something together that was kind of magical. It kind of clicked and
It
I had
really
another
did.
match.
Hit right away.
I had another match in between there too that I would love to some nigga to rematch from. Me and Stevie Richards.
yeah.
I remember that too.
To this
yeah.
day, like
Was that in Joppa?
yeah,
Yeah,
that
that
was
was-
the first. That was November 3rd, November 23rd.
first
That was
one.
here, the first one here.
Yeah.
And I saw him a couple times in New Orleans for Wildcat, Luke Hawks, and he would always say, "I want my rematch. I want my rematch." I said, "Man, I would love to give it to you." Like, I learned a lot from him too. He took me and was like, "Come on," and I went. Like, I love Stevie to this day.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stevie's great.
And I kind of felt like that was my test. I kind of felt like you threw me in there with him because you trusted him so much.
Yeah,
And trust
yeah.
what he thought. And he told me, he said, you did fine, you did good. And I kind of think that's what I got.
Yeah, I did. Stevie, I wanted him to see. I was like, if this guy can be like a top guy for us. And and he had all good things to say. Yeah, and everything.
Yeah.
It was good. It was solid. So
now, how when Black Wall Street formed?
Okay.
So how you said you picked Chuck,
Yes.
correct? And then how did Napalm and Solo, and then later Amber join the
Well,
fold?
Solo, I picked Solo too because I was a big fan of Shawn Michaels and Diesel. And I saw how Diesel was a heater for him. And I told Osborne, I said, he's big. I'm a little guy. He could be my heater. And he was like, good idea. And then that's how Solo came in to take the place of Streets. Okay. And then we did it was the first Shamrock Cup I was in. When it was me, Derek Frazier, Adam Cole. Jesus.
I know so many years ago.
Luke Hawks.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And I cannot remember this guy's name for nothing. His face is right in my head. He was part of the Spirit Squad. I cannot remember.
Not Kenny Dykstra. Was it Mike Mondo or Kenny Dykstra?
Mike Mondo.
Mike
Mondo.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
That's who it was.
Yep.
That's right.
And Napalm was teaming with Dope at that time. And they had the whole turmoil thing for the tag titles. Me, Chuck, and Solo hit the ring. We beat down, who did we beat down? I want to say Buck and G-Fed. And Napalm and Dope supposedly came out for the save. And that was the big swerve, and then that's how Black Wall Street was formed, because it originally supposed to have been us four and Dope as the mouthpiece.
And Two Dope is the mouthpiece, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure why Dope couldn't make it anymore, and then it just became us four.
Yeah, something happened with Two Dope.
Yeah, and something was always kind of happening with Two Dope. I feel like there would be a lot of times where something would happen, and then he had to take
He's
out
one of those guys that comes in and comes out.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, well, so obviously you went on to great success with Black Wall Street because, as you can see up on the screen, you've all got gold here.
I mean, arguably the most successful faction in the history
I
of
would say.
Maryland.
I'd like to hear.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear the argument for anyone else.
and there's no one else who held all the belts
Yeah, I would
simultaneously,
say, I would
right?
say probably.
TQM did.
Did you all of them, Tara?
Well, we didn't have a women's belt, though.
Okay,
Yeah.
true.
But we had the tag
there's
and
an
the
asterisk.
heavyweight.
Tara's saying there's an asterisk.
Wow.
If we had a women's belt, I feel that we would have also had that
Now,
as well.
can
Just
every-
saying.
The way Amber got in was, so I originally pitched Renee because I'm a huge fan of ECW. To me, ECW was the best. ECW was number one, and the franchise is my guy. I love Shane Douglas, I always did, and he had Francine. I couldn't do the things with Amber that franchise did with Francine. I could do that with Renee because Amber to me is a little sister.
Oh yeah.
So I couldn't be as sexual as I wanted to with her. It just wouldn't work. But they apparently some different ideas was for Renee, so we had Amber, which it still worked because she wore the dresses. She looked the part.
She was
Yeah,
great
she did look the part.
in that
She looked the
faction.
part.
She was
Yeah.
great. She really
Yeah.
felt.
I don't think
Yeah.
Renee would have fit like Amber
Yeah,
fit.
yeah.
No, she
Yeah.
would have been
Yeah, it was-
lost out there.
Yeah.
You know.
Hindsight being
Kinda
2020
sticking
don't
out.
work.
Sure.
It was the
But
better
I see
choice.
where
It
you're
was the
going
better
with that.
choice.
You're
Yeah,
right.
it
You
was
wouldn't have
the
been
better
able to
choice.
have that same dynamic with
Right.
Amber that you would have had with Renee.
It was
yeah.
it was the better choice,
For sure.
and it just worked. It just worked.
Well, if all the just to be fantasy booking, if all of the members of each faction can still go, I would love to see a TQM versus Black Wall Street.
Well, I talked to Cicero. He's moved to Alabama.
Yeah.
He got a job at the
wow.
Department of Defense.
He still,
Everybody
he still
moves
works
on.
shows though. Sometimes
He does.
doesn't
He
Yeah,
does.
I think Keith does. And Keith
Hassan.
and
I got
yeah.
to work with his son in West Virginia a couple times.
Yeah, that's right.
I think probably the peak of Black Wall Street, I would say, when we really kind of took off was that weekend where like Black Wall Street went bankrupt, like a couple of you guys had lost, and then
All
like the
of us,
next
all of
night,
us
all of you
I
on one night.
remember that.
All of them on one night,
That's
then
so
everybody
wild.
left.
Yeah.
The woman, Amber too, right?
Yep.
Like by the end of the second night here in the MCW arena, they had every belt. That was they egg on their face and they were on the ropes and like it's falling apart, and then the next night clean sweep. Yeah, and they took everything. I would say that was where it really
That's the
took
night
off.
that picture was taken.
Right, that night.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like a series of TV leading up to a pay-per-view.
Then we went. How long after that? It was after that we did the Hardys. Right?
Yeah, I want to say it was the.
Yeah, because you
it was
guys,
actually
I'm looking at there. You guys had all the belts.
Yeah, it was actually the next month.
Yeah, was it the next
It
month?
was actually the next month
Yeah.
because that crowd, man, like we went out. If you watch that back, you'll see us huddle up, and we just like, yo, this is crazy. Like, do you hear these people? These people are going nuts.
Oh, Matt and Jeff Hardy, man,
Yeah.
always had to
Yeah.
talk about that magic factor. You know, Matt was here all the time.
Yeah.
Jeff comes out, Matt and Jeff together, and it's like
Yeah, like the
magic.
crowd was
Yeah.
It was magic.
It was
It
crazy.
created a moment, or
crazy.
like a.
After the match, Matt was like, he said, did he land on you hard? I said, man, I could have put me through the mat. That was just I didn't care. He could have put me through the ring. I ain't giving a damn.
Yeah, they're so great. I've had experience with them not only here, but other kind of level indies that they appear at, and they're so great with whatever they're asked to do.
Right.
And they don't have to be.
No,
And
and
they're-
what-
you know what I
yeah.
mean? They're do whatever they want. We're just gonna sign. Maybe come out, do a little like hi there. We're leaving. No, we want to do something. Getting with whoever, cutting it all up, and making magic moments. So
Yeah, and I've always been close with those guys. I've been close with them since the '90s. So they for me too. They never even that time they came back and they worked McBride and and Ken.
And the entourage,
Jeff was
right?
coming off. He wasn't cleared to wrestle yet for TNA. He was out with an injury, like a broken leg, and TNA was specific, like Jeff can't do, and it was okay. So Matt was just going to wrestle a single, and Jeff was going to walk to the ring with him. And then Matt's Jeff's like, oh, the hell with it. Just, you know what I mean? Like, it just takes his stuff off. Like, dude, you got a broken leg. He's like, I don't care. I don't care, Dan. I'm going. Like, we're going. I was like, all right. You like, if TNA calls me, I'll whatever.
He said he's going.
Yeah, he said he's going. He just got out. The people were all pumped up, and Jeff's like, nah, man, I'm doing it. We're going to turn this into a tag. And I was like, all right, let's do. You know what I mean? I'm not going to complain because we had told the people like you weren't wrestling, so it's just a bonus.
Yeah.
You know, they're good guys to work with, man, all the way around.
Amazing journey. So Black Wall Street kind of dissipates, I take it, and
Napalm got hurt. I think I was hurt. I tore my ACL.
That's right.
I remember,
2 years when I started wrestling, and I just wrestled on it through the whole Black Wall Street thing, the whole thing with York, RJ. And I didn't get it fixed till like 2 or 3, 4 years ago. Say about 4 years ago.
So yeah, just kind of. But sometimes things happen like that. Like it's the right time to split it off or do something different. So.
But it might also be the right time to reunite too.
Yeah.
You
We
know?
talked. Me and Napalm. We did. I think we did a podcast for Gilbert once, and it was me, Napalm. Tofiga was there, and it actually came out. You know, he wanted to do some other things. He wanted to do some things by himself.
Yeah,
which, I mean, I totally get, I understand it. And he just wanted to do some other things, and it was just left with me and Chuck because Solo moved to Canada, and then it just me and Chuck, and then I think Chuck fell off for a while. And then it was just me.
I've talked about this too a couple times on there. I don't think it didn't ever seem like Napalm and Solo were on the same page that like I wanted them to be on, even as a team.
Yeah, they weren't.
Which is okay. Creative differences happen.
Yeah, he
kind of
felt like he was kind of carrying it because Solo was so green at that time. Mm-hmm. I mean,
he was, but that's the short-sightedness.
Yeah.
And that's okay because he had something in his own mind, but man, their look was so good together.
That's what I'm saying. At least we got the pictures.
I
hate to say it, but we got
their look was so good together. So if a guy's green, but he could end up helping you get a job somewhere because together.
Yeah, you look better together.
Because you look better than together than apart. You know what I mean? Like apart.
I think Brent called them Doom 2000 or something like that.
Yeah. But I did, man. And you know how I would judge it? I would actually go out in the crowd at times. Like in Waldorf and the different places when they were coming to the ring, and you could see the reaction, the reaction of people, even if they didn't know them and were in Waldorf or Hollywood, but they walked through the curtain and you would see people go, ooh. I mean, because
these guys are wrestlers, you know.
Well,
I mean, I hate to say it.
If I'm walking down the alley and a door opens in a bar and those two come out, I'm going the other way. You know what I mean? Like I want no parts of this.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like I'm going the other way. You know what I mean? I want no parts of whatever they got. I'm going the other way.
Someone like me, I'd probably walk right into that.
Well, I'll tell you, those two were also a favorite at the birthday parties. They went over well with the moms.
Yeah.
I'd get a lot of conversations afterwards. Can you get those two to come back out here? Oh, it was funny to watch them.
I loved birthday parties.
It was funny to watch those
myself.
I'm sure that you all did.
So did the Bruiser.
Apparently, the birthday parties were like
I got Jimmy Seafood brought to me. Got some extracurricular on the parking lot. I enjoyed that.
I hate balls.
When are we bringing them back?
next month.
When it's safe, you know. And so by next
we're
month,
there. We're here. It's been a year.
Yeah. Now the weather's warm. We got a party tent for outside.
It's been 13 months.
It's going to be good.
13 months since the last birthday party.
No, we had one in November.
Oh, did we?
We had one in November, yeah. In the
Why you gotta squash my heat?
That's what she does. That's what she does.
Tara?
Okay, we're
trying to get some sympathy here from the fans to book some birthday parties.
No, for the first 3 or 4 years.
We've had one. We've had one
in 13 months.
The first 3 or 4 years, me and Tara never said a word.
No, we didn't speak. Nothing. Well, I remember when I was at Gilberg's. I didn't know you. I don't know. You just had like this whole corner of that locker room where the gym was. Like you guys just kind of took it, and I just always tried to walk past as quick as I could. Like I was like, I felt like an outsider, and I don't know. It was a weird time in my life, but I just always felt like, don't go over there. Like you guys just look like I shouldn't bother you.
Yeah, see, and I would have walked right on into it. Anyway, let's take one more quick break.
Okay.
We've got the Black Track Chipper with us, and hear a little bit more about where you are today. And I want to talk about being named 2016 MCW Wrestler of the Year.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast, and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
Let's go. I'm an OG, now I'm back again. The action lit, run these streets while you packing in. I'm back again, and they claim my spot, I'm backing in. My motive is his hair and attack the wit. I'm an OG.
All right, we're back. Larry, before the break, had mentioned the 2016 Wrestler of the Year.
Yeah.
But also a Grand Slam champion.
One of the few.
One of the few.
Yeah.
Most decorated, probably one of the most decorated wrestlers in MCW history, Drolix.
And from one of the most dominant factions in the history, if not the. I got a question here because I watched your career closely, although I haven't always been here. But I seem to remember you in a match where it was a career on the line. And I remember you being put down by one of our earlier guests here on the cast, Ken Dixon.
Yes.
So I'm going to pose this question to you, just like I posed it to Ken. How, after the fact, did you end up finding yourself reinstated? I remember you were a commentator for a while, and then I would always be catching those you and Cradle doing your thing, and then I saw you were back. How'd Phil reinstate you? Like, how'd that go down?
Oh, when you got a good friend like RJ the Bruiser.
I was going to say, I didn't have anything to do with
and
it.
He has an invitational. I need to say any more?
No, I mean, that's pretty, because Ken was like, why don't you ask Phil? And I was like, well, we ask Phil a lot, but we haven't had him in studio just yet. But you're the other part of the equation, so I always wanted to find out how you ended up getting reinstated and restarting your career.
The Big Bad Bruiser. The Big Bad Bruiser.
And that makes sense, as you were one of the few participants on his tribute show, the Bruiser Strong show that we did here in the multi-man tag. What was it, Four Corners tag match? Or?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so.
And now Bruiser asked you to do something else, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
Yes, he
So
did.
let's hear a little bit about that.
So when he called me and told me what was going on with him,
This was the last call?
this was actually the last time I got to see him. I went to his house to see him.
When he told you he wasn't going to make it?
He called me and told me he wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
And then I told him I was coming to see him. I went and seen him that Wednesday. And we sat and we watched Back to the Future. I never saw that movie until I watched it with him. And now every time I see it, I watch it and it reminds me of him. he says to me, it's time for you to step up at the school and start helping out. I said, I'm not going to tell you no. I'm going to do whatever you want me to do. And I've been here ever since. I help out with the beginners class, just the basic stuff. As you can see, this is a hard subject for me to talk anytime you bring up RJ, because he meant so much to me. And I'm just fulfilling my promise to him. He said, I need you to do this, and it's time for you to do it. And I'm going to do it.
I remember that Tuesday when you came to the school, and you stopped at the check-in table where I was checking you in. I said, what are you doing here? And you said, he asked me to. And
Yes.
so I'm here. And that just stuck with me. That's
Yes.
He knew that you were ready for this.
Yes.
And he wouldn't have asked you otherwise. So
Yeah.
now you get to pass on everything that you've learned to these young guys and girls out there training. And
Yes.
that's that full circle thing, that we always
And-
talk about in here.
And I take extreme pride in that. Like, RJ built this house. This is RJ's house. And the road back, you'll hear me mention something about his throne. It's going to always be RJ's throne, the Bruiser's throne. He rules this place. But I'm not going to let that sit empty. There's no way I can fill his shoes, but I'm a damn sure try. And I'm not going to let no one disrespect this place, or do anything, any little thing to disrespect MCW, because this is his, and I'm protected for him.
Well, I think that's why he asked. I
Yeah.
think that's why he had that conversation with you, is because he knew if there was anyone to protect the throne, if not sit on it, knowing what was going to be his what was going to happen with him.
This is his legacy.
Well, and also you shared something in common. You had mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast about how you didn't care if you got signed to WWE or whatever. You just wanted to be a wrestler, and
Yes.
that you feel that way about MCW.
Yes.
Well, he would say, I got into this business to be a wrestler. The end game was never to go to WWE. Sure, that would have been great, but the end game for him was to be a wrestler, whether that was in front of 10 fans, 100 fans, 1,000 fans in Joppa. And so I feel like you guys are on the same page
Yes.
there, that, you're not using this as a stepping stone. You're seeing this for the wonderful thing that it is, and
Right.
you'll put your heart and soul into it just the way he did. So when you said it was the house that RJ built, that's why he built it that way.
Yes.
Could he have gone on to another promotion? I'm sure,
Yeah.
but he really believed that, hey, I got into this to be a wrestler, and that's what I'm doing.
Yes. RJ is the heart and soul of MCW. I don't think MCW would be what it is without him. It's hand in hand, MCW, RJ. When you think MCW, you think of the Bruiser. And like I said, to me, he asked me, and I'm going to do it. There is no to him from me. He says, step up, I'm stepping up. His throne, I'm sitting on it. And straight from the heart, I'll look in the camera and say it. If you think you got the balls to take it from me, come do it. You going to tell me I can't? Prove it.
And that's why RJ wanted
Exactly.
you, because he wants that type of attitude,
Yeah.
which was an attitude he always carried it. That's the way he carried it. You want it? Shoot with me right now. Take it from me.
Yep.
You
Right.
know? So that's definitely RJ to the core, that this is his legacy. This podcast is
Right.
his legacy. The
Yes.
reason you're even here as a guest right now is part of his legacy, how the fans felt it when we had our Bruiser
Exactly.
Strong show, and
I'm not just the only one here. It's another guy that doesn't he doesn't want the spotlight. He doesn't ask for the spotlight. Dean, oh my God, what a mind for this. Dean is the best, and within the past, I want to say the last couple of weeks, months, just by being here, we've gotten a lot closer. Like me and you, Tara.
I know.
Me and Dean never spoke. He thought I didn't like him. I'm like, no, I looked up to you, because when I first got in, you were the man here. We would refer to you as Chris Jericho. You look just like him. I love Dean too, man. the school would be nothing without Dean here either.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know who Dean is, Tyler Hilton, like Dean's the man.
He was
Dean's
part
the
of
man.
another faction here in MCW,
Yes.
the
Rehoboth
Rehoboth Beach
Beach
Crew.
Crew,
Yep.
yep.
I managed them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to try to convince Dean to get himself into the chair here.
Yeah, he won't-
I mean,
he won't wanna
he'll
sit
never
down.
do it. He'll never do it, right? But I was thinking, like, what a story that would be from Rehoboth Beach Crew to the whole Zachary Shane, all
Yeah.
of that to now, and who knows? You may have set the wheels into motion after this cast goes on air. Maybe, hearing you say that we, give him that shout out is one of the reasons that a lot of our fans should hear, what Dean has to say. And I'd like to pick his brain about some things too.
Yeah.
Speaking of picking people's brains, didn't we have a lot of, you're one of the most polarizing figures in the history of MCW. They either love you or they hate you, either into the litmus test. But didn't we have a lot of fan shout outs or call outs to?
Well, we do have a lot of questions for our guest Drolix tonight. But let's take and listen to
Phil.
Let's
Oh,
go to
yeah.
Phil
Oh, yeah.
first,
Yeah,
because
speaking of Phil.
we have a lot of great questions, so I want to devote some time to
All
that.
right,
when we
yeah,
come back.
I kinda
So why don't I
jumped
take
the
a little
gun
break?
there.
It's okay. I know you've been excited this
Yeah.
evening. You've done that a couple times.
Been
It's
an
okay.
exciting ignite.
Let's get filled in. by
all
Phil
right.
Let's get
Stamper.
filled in by Phil. Uncle Phil.
Hey everybody, my name is Phil Stamper. So excited to be with you this week. It's Mania Week, y'all. Mania Week. I mean, see the hand? It's Mania Week. Are you excited? Are you ready? Lots of action coming your way this weekend. But first, let me go ahead and just share with you. Last week, I talked a little bit about how can you better support wrestling, and I talked about just clicking like and sharing posts that you see on social media. It's just as easy as that when it comes to wrestling. I have now bought a small library of wrestling t-shirts. This is my Pro Wrestling is Essential t-shirt. I believe it's available on the Charismatic Yellow Dog page on Pro Wrestling Tees. But so many products are out there. I did this to support different wrestlers that I knew were out of work right now. But go ahead and, find those ways. Pro Wrestling Tees is not the only location, but that's one of the big ones out there where you can help support some of your favorite wrestling talent. Let's go ahead and jump into action that you're going to be able to see this week. Already out this week. Go to YouTube. Find Leo Mania, Leo Rush, Enzo Amore. It's on YouTube. You need to go see it. Go watch, go watch, go watch. Tonight, out of Louisville, Kentucky, Ohio Valley Wrestling. On Wednesday, out of Alaska, Wrestle Pro, and out of Florida. Now, this will be the first event during Mania Week that you can actually go to and go see. No Peace Underground, Wednesday night in Orlando, Florida. Now, I'm not going to share with you the IWTV and Fight TV schedules this week. Because basically, as I go through, as I talk about the collective, it's going to be on Fight TV. As I talk about the IWTV showcase, it's going to be on IWTV. So it's all going to feel pretty natural as I'm going through it. As I talk about events that are happening in Florida, I'm reading off a list that's chronological, and then I will jump into other states. I hope this makes sense. So then on Thursday, April 8th, IWTV Showcase presents IWTV Family Reunion. The Collective presents Jimmy Lloyd's Degeneration F. IWTV Showcase presents the second Family Reunion. The Collective presents Acid Cup. Also, Crab Wrestling and Flophouse. The Collective then presents Bloodsport. IWTV Showcase presents ICW New York. The Collective presents For the Culture. IWTV Showcase presents another event from No Peace Underground. Then out of Georgia, WWA 4. Out of New Jersey, streaming only and featuring, folks you might be familiar to those of you who follow MCW Pro Wrestling. Generation Wrestling has its first episode streaming on its Facebook page. Also out of New Jersey, Intergender Bonanza. Out of Ontario, streaming on their Facebook page. Bari Wrestling. Out of Pennsylvania, Bariqua Wrestling League. Out of Rhode Island, Extreme Wrestling Alliance. And also this Thursday, out of Tennessee, 127 Pro Wrestling. Then this Friday, and again, we're going to start with Florida. Out of We Run This Town Generation Championship Wrestling, IWTV Showcase presents Action Wrestling and Southern Underground Pro. The Collective presents Alley Cat. We Run This Town presents Pile Driver Pro versus Real Pro Wrestling. We Run This Town presents New Texas Pro Wrestling. The Collective presents Day 2 of Acid Cup. The IWTV Showcase presents a Beyond Wrestling event. We Run This Town presents Dallas-Fort Worth All-Pro Wrestling. We Run This Town presents Boot and Heel. The IWTV Showcase presents ICW New York. The Collective presents Spring Break. We Run This Town's Generation Championship Wrestling returns later in the evening. 2 events from Zawa in Florida. And closing out the evening, we have the IWTV Showcase presenting ICW New York. And We Run This Town presenting Ladies Night Out. Also happening this Friday, out of Alabama, Bad Boy Pro and Pro South Wrestling. Out of Alaska, Wrestle Pro Alaska continues its tour. Out of California, Destination 6. Now I have to scroll back down. Out of Georgia, Coastal Empire Wrestling and Platinum Championship Wrestling. Streaming directly to IWTV from an underground location will be Freelance and Freelance Underground. Out of Michigan, Pro Wrestling All-Stars of Detroit. Out of New Jersey, Monster Factory Pro Wrestling. Out of Oklahoma, Core Pro Wrestling. Out of South Carolina, Pro Wrestling Union. Out of Tennessee, Resolute Wrestling and Southern Wrestling Federation. Then out of Wisconsin, Brew City Wrestling. All this happening on Friday night. Then on Saturday, let's start again with Florida. Out of The Collective, Effie's Big Gay Brunch. Out of IWTV Showcase, Tony Deppin's Beer House. Out of The Collective, Alex Cologne's Planet Death. Out of IWTV Showcase, Beyond Wrestling. Out of The Collective, Unsanctioned Pro. Out of the IWTV Showcase, ICW New York. Out of The Collective, No Peace Underground. Now let's jump back to Alabama, the Alabama Wrestling Federation. Out of Alaska, Wrestle Pro Alaska continues its tour. Out of Arkansas, Revolutionary Wrestling Entertainment. Out of Georgia, let me just scroll over just a little bit, All Pro Championship Wrestling, Southern Violence and Wrestling, and Southern Wrestling Association, as well as WrestleMerica. Out of Kentucky, Kentucky Zone Wrestling and World Wrestling Alliance. Out of Michigan, Horror Slam. Out of Mississippi, Diamond Championship Wrestling. Out of Missouri, Live Pro Wrestling. Out of New Jersey, Hardcore Hustle Organization. Out of Pennsylvania, AON and Eclipse Wrestling. Out of South Carolina, Pro Wrestling Union. Out of Tennessee, New Pro Wrestling South and Rated R Wrestling, as well as Southern Pride Championship Wrestling, Tennessee All Pro Wrestling, and Tennessee Wrestling Alliance. Out of Texas, Atlas Wrestling Promotion, Austin Wrestling Revolution, and Metroplex Wrestling. And out of West Virginia, World Domination Wrestling. And then on Sunday, yes, there will be events on Sunday. First, out of Florida, Real Pro Wrestling. Out of Mississippi, Championship Wrestling from Memphis. Yes, I know, I said Mississippi. It is happening. Out of Mississippi, Championship Wrestling from Memphis. Out of South Carolina, Old School Championship Wrestling. And out of Tennessee, School of Morton, streaming live to its Facebook page. School of Morton ran by WWE Hall of Famer Ricky Morton. Check it out at 5:05 p.m. That's everything for me for this coming week. I hope you're having a good week. I hope you're excited. It's Mania Week, y'all. Talk to you soon.
Of a lot. We have a lot of questions for our guests. And I'm going to start with one. And this is from Dan Garrett. And he said, Jimmy, you are like family. He grew up with you. And his question is, why you a Steelers fan when you are from Southwest Baltimore?
None of his business.
Real quick, I just want to say I think it's silly. I think it's totally silly, the rivalry. But if you know the origins of the rivalry, there is actually real beef between the cities of Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and it doesn't have anything to do with football. But it's funny to me, or kind of a coincidence, that the rivalry that at one point was actually causing people to go bankrupt and lose their house and home is now manifested through like a game, like a sort of sports game. And
that's ridiculous. Like, why can't you just like a team that you like? Why it's got to be, whatever.
Yeah. I've never been of that persuasion. Like, it always bugs me when I hear people say, "Oh, we lost today." Like, really? Did you play? I didn't know that. Like, I just don't get that, I guess.
How many millions are you getting for sitting home?
Right. I mean, maybe it's because I come from a town that didn't have, like, a sports team. I mean, and I was in Western Maryland, and most people kind of sided with the Washington Redskins. But I don't know. I just never got into it. I'm like, you didn't play anything. What are you talking about? We won or we lost. You didn't do anything.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, I think it has a lot to do with colors. Like, honestly, it's like black and yellow as opposed to purple a lot of the time becomes the battle, as opposed to the cities actually fighting, or really, like, these people don't really represent, Pittsburgh as much as they, represent the colors black and yellow.
Interesting.
It's the way that I feel like that a lot of people view the sports. And I mean all of the sports. And I think that, I don't have any scientific evidence to back this up. But, colors.
You are drawn to certain colors.
And they
that is true.
Red, the Buccaneers, they just won. That's a red team, the Steelers, black and yellow, the Cowboys, blue stars. All of these things activate feelings. Yeah, when I was a kid, it was the Dolphins. My team was the Dolphins because of their colors. They were brighter. I wanted a starter jacket, but I wanted to stand out, and I liked the dolphin with a football helmet on it. So but yeah, it's interesting to me the how we talk about the reality behind a lot of what goes on in our form of entertainment and politics as well. In football as well, you can get killed. Just repping a team like you're in a gang.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
True.
In Baltimore, especially, yeah.
Yeah.
Repping the Steelers in Baltimore.
Or when the Boston people come down because it's cheap for them to go to Camden Yards, and they, they're surrounded by drunk Baltimore people talking about go Red Sox. This could be hazardous to your health.
All right. So since we have a bunch of questions, I'm going to kind of do it rapid fire. So that I figured. You're a man of few words sometimes. All right. So who, we didn't talk about this actually when we talked about your younger days. Who made you a fan, and who was like your early favorites when you were watching wrestling like as a kid? Who did you look to for inspiration?
Any of the Horsemen, basically. I love heels. I'm a natural heel myself.
No kidding.
I just love bad guys. Any member of the Horsemen, like, they were my favorite growing up.
Okay. Now, would you say you adopted your style from them, or somebody else inspired your style?
When I got into wrestling, I mainly generated my style around Taz. Short, stocky, didn't give a damn, don't like people, don't want to be around people. You have me. That's me. I'm.
And he really was like that.
Yes, I don't. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a people person. I prefer to be alone. That's why I bought a house in the middle of nowhere with a gym in it, so I wouldn't have to interact with too many people. And he was it. He was that. Shane Douglas, Ric Flair, a lot of Arn Anderson, a lot of Benoit, all mixed together. You get Drolix, basically.
Okay. That kind of leads into the next question, which is from Greg Papalukas. And he said, which do you prefer, face or heel, and why? But I think you've answered that now, that you definitely, clearly prefer being a heel.
I love Greg. Greg's a good guy.
Yeah, very much so.
I love Greg.
Also, which wrestlers outside of MCW would you like to face in an MCW ring? Like, if we could bring in anybody to face you, who would it be?
Oh, that's easy.
Okay.
AJ Winkler. He made a name for himself in Germany. Oh, man. I worked him at the first cup I was in, and I like AJ. He's came a long way. I would love to get a match in MCW with him.
For sure. All right.
He is he still in Germany and all that?
No, he actually lives in the States now.
Yeah. Is he back in Maryland?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, he was a nice
vouch
kid.
for him.
I see the wheels turning over there.
Please
No,
bring
well,
him.
because I stopped using him. I didn't want to use him for years.
Yeah.
He was reckless.
A lot better.
He was real reckless.
He's more of a world of sport type.
He would just always want it. He was real green. Like he gave Chris Clow a concussion. Yeah, he would see stuff in Japan or stuff like that and try to do it, and he was so green.
He didn't have that body control.
And he didn't have the body control,
really
and he would drop people on their heads. So I was just like, it was me that took him off. I mean, he knows I did because I was like, nah, pull that now. Before we end up with a broken neck.
If you're willing to give him another shot.
Well, he has done. He's gotten a lot better. I realized it was green, but sometimes when guys are green like that and they think they know better, like
they need that reality check.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit around. I've been around enough. Like you can tell when a guy's listening and when he's like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah, let me get this guy out of my face.
And he continued to do it in matches, do stuff that like Tara best explanation of it. He was too green and didn't have the body control at the time to do these high impact things. people are getting banged up, concussions and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, someone's going to end up freaking paralyzed in the ring with this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he's trying to do some Japanese type move, and he doesn't have the control yet, and he's too green to be doing it. And I wasn't going to chance it. At the time, I'm sure he probably is, and I'm probably different. He's went and done good and learned how to work and gotten it. I mean, this was back in the beginning of his career.
Yeah, this was like 09.
Yeah, that's all. He was always a nice guy and always super respectful. But if my gut, I'd learned enough in life, that when your gut's telling you something, and at the time, my gut was like, man, get this guy out of the ring, out of your shows before he put somebody in a hospital.
Yeah, now he's the Prince of Pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
So it's not that's not a bash. That's just it was a factual about a guy that
he had
was
to do a
green
little
at the
growing
time.
up,
He had
and
to
he
grow up.
has. Yeah.
He's grown up.
Yeah,
He's definitely
absolutely.
grown up.
Speaking of growing up, the next question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years. I don't look that far.
Okay.
I live in it now. I don't like to look long distances away like that because it's not guaranteed. Like, live your life for the now, especially in these days and times. You never know.
Yeah. For sure. And next question is, your training is intense. When did you start taking physical fitness seriously? You mentioned that you live out in the middle of nowhere and you bought a house with a gym. And for those of you who follow you on social media, that it does seem you post a lot of that. So this person wants to know, when did you start taking that so seriously?
I went to a gym with a buddy of mine I used to work with named Tommy Williams, and we worked at the airport. He said, hey, come to the gym with me, because you thought I was big. He's huge. And I just went with him once, and pro wrestling got in me, and it was a drug, and I just stuck with it. And then when they shut gyms down because of COVID, I was like, I can't do this. And entrance rates were low. I wanted to move, and I had the money. And you know how you go look for a house, most people look for kitchens, yard space, all that. I looked for a place to stick a gym. And I saw a big giant garage, and I said, this is it.
That's great.
And I don't have to deal with people. It's my therapy. I work, I go home, and Kendall's in there with me some days, and I just work out.
That's great.
Keeps me sane.
Great. Another question from Mo and Lisa. They want to know, what kept you motivated during the global gimmick the past year?
What kept me motivated?
Yeah, what kept you motivated?
Me. I motivate me. I don't need any inspiration, anything like that. I motivate me. I love me.
Well, and it sounds like you're motivated by having that gym in your house, too. Being able to put that and being able to devote that time,
And when they, like I said, you have no idea how much I love not having to interact with people.
I know how much I can tell.
It's
Yeah.
Going to the gym with a bunch of people there. Like when I was going to the gym, I would get up at midnight and go to the gym and work out till 2, 3 in the morning. Just take a shower, eat, go to work.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to, like, I don't, I've seen people I love get hurt by people so much. That's what turns me off to people. So I just don't, I'd rather not deal with them at all. If we don't have something in common like pro wrestling, don't talk to me. I use a self-checkout because I don't want to talk to the cashier.
I can relate. I don't like interacting with people at the gym either. When I was in high school, I used to get up at 4:30 in the morning in high school to go to the gym because I wanted to use the weight room without anybody bothering me. And I have a same thing going on at home too, so I can avoid going anywhere near people.
To me, self-motivation is the best motivation.
Yep. Oh, that's great. And one more from them, and they wanted to know, are you ready to be back in the ring and go for the world title again?
If I choose to.
The MCW Pro Wrestling Championship.
Indeed, not a world championship.
Not a world.
Oh, sorry.
So that's
sorry. I was reading directly from the questions.
That is a pet peeve of mine.
I know. And it was of RJ's too.
I
He hated the world championship.
I hate it.
If you don't defend it outside of your state, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, come on, there's like 3 world titles, like Ring of Honor, because they got national television.
Yeah.
AEW, WWE.
Well, the criteria is that the belt has to be be defended
Yeah.
and contested overseas.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
You know, that's
We
what makes it a
cross
world
state
title.
lines here.
Very-
but we-
okay,
we're
yeah.
not-
You've got to like defend it in Canada against a Canadian or Mexico against a someone from AAA.
Man, the first MCW champion, Romeo Valentino,
The cornerstone
of
of MCW.
used to frickin' drive me
Oh,
crazy.
Yeah.
And I half don't know if he did it to dig at me when he would go out and say, I'm the Maryland Championship Wrestling World Champion. And I would say, stop it. Stop. I freaking hate it. I hate it.
I think
So the MCW Pro Wrestling Championship, not the World Championship.
I think it just came with Nick. It came from always watching the wrestler when he was younger and getting his promo style from Flair.
And probably a little bit to just dig at me because he knew I
Probably
hated
too.
it.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
like you were like.
So elaborate
So,
more
yeah.
on that question. Like, if I want it, I'll go get it. If I want a tag title, I'll go get it. I want
Okay.
the cup again, I'll go get it. I want the Bruiser Brumble again, I'll go get it. Who's gonna stop me? Think about it. Who walking around here is gonna stop me from doing anything I want to do?
Well, it's interesting you said that if you want the cup again, you'll get it, because we have been musing over when there is another cup, having it forget all the qualifying matches and just doing one match with all former winners, like a lethal lottery of winners.
Right.
And how amazing that would be, pardon the pun, to have Amazing Red, Ruckus, Drolix.
Is Amazing Red wrestling again?
No, he isn't. I just said that's why it would be
Okay.
amazing. That's why it would really be amazing.
Because, like, his neck and all shot, right?
Yeah.
Well,
That would
I mean,
surprise me.
he's injured, but he stepped away himself because he didn't like what was going on with the business.
Right.
He closed his career out tragically, actually, in CZW was his last match, a tag match. I know, right?
Sorry.
So that was it for him. But anyway, we're just musing over. I think maybe actually one of our subscribers actually called this out. Like,
a couple weeks
what
ago.
about a cup that was all former winners? You know, I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So.
Those were some great questions from our fans, and if you
Not
want,
the one from Dan. That's BS.
if you want to ask,
I like your question this week, Dan. Dan thinks that I
well,
hate
and
his
you know what?
question.
I don't.
Dan asked a question on Facebook a couple weeks ago,
Dan, I
actually,
just don't
for
like you,
you,
brother.
that asked about your time being heel and babyface. Which did you prefer? But I didn't re-ask that because
Thank you.
I think we've covered it. Drolix wants to be a heel. Yes, I
But
think
you
we
did
all know
acknowledge
this
that Dan,
now.
Dan asked that.
Yeah,
question.
absolutely.
Okay,
He had
yeah.
posted that on Facebook a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, so, all right, the consummate heel. I get it. But if you want to ask our guests questions on upcoming episodes, you can have that insider track by becoming a Coffee Club member at Buy Me a Coffee /MCW Cast, and for $5 a month you can support us, which will help us to push out more content for you, but also you get exclusive insider access to ask our guests any question you'd like within reason.
That's right, Tara. And once again, we got that big upcoming 15-minute The Road Back. That's going to be a web miniseries.
This Thursday.
This Thursday at
It's
8.
only about 15 minutes, so you don't have to plan as long as you do to watch this. So they're short episodes, kind of like TED Talk style.
Yep, hosted by Kim and Nicole. And then also, before we close this episode out, we got a fan festival coming up, don't we?
We do with Zack Ryder on May the 8th.
That's right, May the
Yes.
8th. That's right, because I
May
got
the
that deal. So anyway, details are online. We've been
Maryland, MCWProWrestling.com.
We'd love limited, capacity now, or tickets that can be sold for this.
These are all steps on the path to having live shows again. So we're doing all these things behind the scenes, and we're putting them out there for you. We hope you'll join us.
That's right. And with that said, I think now's a good time to say goodbye until we're with you again next Tuesday at 8 for the MCW Cast. I'm Larry Legend.
I'm Dan McDevitt.
I'm Tara.
We want to thank our guest again, the Black Jack Tripper Drolix, and we'll see you all
See you guys next week.
next Tuesday.
Watch hundreds of hours of MCW Pro Wrestling action at MCWRageTV.com. That's MCWRageTV.com.